For Comedy Hype News, I'm K-Rob. In 2019, it was reported that there were about 715,000 homeless people living in the United States. And before they rose to fame, many of the world's most recognizable celebrities struggled for money. And some weren't just poor, they were also homeless. So here's a list of famous comedians who at some point in their lives had nowhere to sleep but the streets. Steve Harvey. The actor, TV personality, and author told People magazine that when he was just starting out as a comedian in the late 1980s, one or two gigs fell through and he suddenly found himself homeless. People reported that Harvey lived in his 1976 Ford Tempo for 3 years, making $50 a week. He would wash up in hotel bathrooms, gas stations, or swimming pool showers. I sat down and started crying, but a voice said, "If you keep going, I'm going to take you places you've never been." It was like God said, "Don't quit, you're almost there." Harvey didn't even tell his own mother about his situation. He kept it from her to keep her from worrying about him. Harvey's mom was under the impression her son had lots of friends and was living the high life as he tried to make his way up through the comedy ranks. But all the while, he was living in a car and struggling to make ends meet. I couldn't tell her I was homeless. That would have broke her heart. After 3 years of struggling, Harvey pulled out of homelessness by landing his first major gig in 1993 as a host of Showtime at the Apollo, which led to his comedy television series, The Steve Harvey Show, in 1996. I'm running from homelessness. I can't ever be in that position again. If my show gets canceled, I got 3 more. I don't have any free time, but I have 12 jobs. Hannibal Buress. In 2014, Hannibal Buress told Howard Stern he was homeless in NYC before making it big as a comedian. I was homeless by just stubbornness. I didn't want to go back to Chicago and feel like a failure. A Chicago native, Buress moved to New York City to pursue a career in comedy. He stayed with his sister for a few weeks, but she couldn't host him for too long after she had a baby. Buress slept in the parks, in hostels, and on the subway. It wasn't really scary. It would just be weird to go to sleep when the train is empty and wake up when it's full of people going to work. I always felt confident I would make some sort of good living in comedy. And in 2012, Sheila Ann Feeney of Newsday asked Buress, "What would you most like to see changed or accomplished in NYC?" And he responded, "Someone really needs to fix this homeless problem. Get more shelters, get people off the streets. I don't know exactly how, it's not my area, but it's a really glaring problem. It's just messed up when people don't have a place to live." Tiffany Haddish. In her 2017 memoir, The Last Black Unicorn, Haddish revealed that at age 18, her grandmother kicked her out of her house, and she was then homeless as hell, just traveling around with my plastic bins, and was basically couch surfing at friends' houses. She also said she had gotten accepted into New York University but could not afford to go, so she instead attended Santa Monica Community College and got a job to pay for it. She also had to temporarily stop doing stand-up comedy, which she had started doing in high school. In addition to growing up at her grandmother's home, she spent time in foster care between the ages of 13 and 18, during which she was molested, bullied, slapped, and was made to clean and cook. And she was also exposed to marijuana smoke. In 2018, Haddish told Vanity Fair when she was homeless and living in her car, comedian Kevin Hart gave her $300 to find a place to live for a week. At the time, they were performing in a sketch comedy show called Comedy Playground. He saw all the stuff in my car. He had like this long discussion with me. Basically like, "You're a beautiful woman. You can stay with any man. Why don't you just stay with a man?" And I was like, "I'm not sleeping with nobody for a roof over my head. I'm just not that type of person." She said after a week, she obtained a rundown apartment to rent for $550 a month. Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey once lived out of a VW camper van and in a tent on his sister's front lawn. Carrey's father lost his job when he was still a young boy, and the loss of a stable income led the family to become homeless. For a long while, the family had to live in a van with his family parked in different places throughout Canada. They eventually moved into a tent on his older sister's lawn and parked the van in the driveway. This forced Jim to drop out of school at the age of 15 so that he could take a job as a janitor in order to support his family. 2 years later, in 1979, Jim left his job as a factory janitor and began doing stand-up comedy. He started to make a living as an opening act for Buddy Hackett and Rodney Dangerfield. In 1983, Jim transferred to Hollywood, where he starred in a television movie introducing Janet. This was the beginning of a successful career for Jim. Carrey said it was during these tough financial times growing up when he developed his sense of humor. And with all of his success, Jim continues to be an advocate and often speaks out for the less fortunate. Imagine struggling with being homeless and someone comes with a camera in your face to give you a meal and you have to take it. Imagine that feeling. Please stop doing that. If you go to help someone, do it with kindness and not your ego. Red Fox. Red Fox moved from Chicago, Illinois to Harlem, New York in the 1940s, and when he arrived, he met Malcolm Little, who would later go on to be known as Malcolm X. They became friends due to their similar circumstances at the time. Both were in the pursuit of a prosperous life in Harlem and became hustlers together, though they sometimes barely made enough money to get by. In the book Black and Blue, The Red Fox Story, Red confided to Anthony Major, who ran Red Fox Production in the mid-1980s, that Malcolm was the only person he trusted. They used to rob places together, sleep on rooftops together, and when they couldn't afford a place to stay for the night, Fox would invite Malcolm up to his rooftop on 707 St. Nicholas Avenue. We had about 500 pounds of newspaper up there. Newspaper is some of the warmest stuff going on. While working at Jimmy's Chicken Shack, the two had several side hustles, including selling zoot suits that they stolen from a nearby laundry business on top of the same rooftop where they had often slept. We sell one or two of them a day off the roof. We never got caught for that. I guess that balanced out some of the stuff I had to pay for later that I didn't do. Other side hustles included selling marijuana and joining the Communist Party. Fox admitted that neither him nor Malcolm X gave a damn about politics and society issues at the time, unless it had something to do with women or food. I remember one time Malcolm and I joined the Communist Party. Maybe not joined it, but signed something or other, because they had white broads and food, and I hadn't had food in about 2 weeks. Fox and Malcolm were giving a pile of Communist Party literature that they were expected to digest. You dance with the chicks, smell the perfume, and eat the sandwiches. You just couldn't avoid being a part of things like that, because there was food. Man, stacked high cakes and lemonade, even bologna you can put in your pocket. I would have joined the Ku Klux Klan if they had sandwiches. The people on this list with hard work and determination all eventually turned their lives around, becoming an inspiration to anyone who had dreams of a professional career in the entertainment industry. Despite starting from nothing, they turned misfortune into great success. To stay up to date with the latest news and comedy, subscribe here to our YouTube and follow Comedy Hype across all of our social media platforms. For Comedy Hype News, I'm K-Rob.